I just had a wonderful chat with a friend of mine that I've met virtually. We haven't met in person yet, no IRL yet. He's in Los Angeles, and we were chatting. And he says he's going to do everything he can just to bridge the education between those who use technology and those who are not using it, and may have a misunderstanding or a fear or resistance about that. Because he was sharing an example that someone he knows is a friend of his who is an attorney who's just coming out of college out of Arizona, and they were advised by their professor not to use any AI because it wouldn't help them. Now, my friend just chuckled and like, are you kidding me? That's like saying, somebody telling you back 10 years ago, 20 years ago of you should not use a calculator because it'll rot your brain. I think sometimes we misunderstand, and I'm guilty of it. There are times where somebody says something to me and it's new to me, and I have this immediate reaction. I'm like, wait a second, maybe I need to take a step back. I need to hit pause, and I need to dig into a little bit more. I'll give you an example. I'm speaking in June at a conference, and the organizer said, now I just want to let you know that we're going to have a group there, and they're going to be opposing a certain topic. And when I heard this, I'm like, wow, that's unfortunate, because this is integral to the growth of our industry, this thing that they're opposing. And then I got to thinking, well, wait a minute. They're only opposing this probably because they have been drawn to the negative side of this, or they're leaning into the negative side of this because it's a headline. It's a fear that they have. It's a message that's floating around in the area that they are. It doesn't mean it's true because of that. It doesn't mean it's false because of that. But what it should mean is, or what it should do is make it interesting to lean in and say, I should learn more, not listen to the pundits, not listen to other people's opinions, but let me dig into the facts. I have a friend that almost every morning we are sending things back and forth. We're both up early drinking our coffee, between 4 and 5 in the morning. And what happens is we'll pull something up, or I'll pull something up and send it to my friend. And a few minutes later, he says, I've done some fact checking, and this is what we're noticing. And we'd say, there's 60% of that particular content it's not fake. It's not wrong. It's just inaccurate. It's not based on truth. It's based on someone's opinion. It's almost like saying, because I walked down the street and a dog barked at me, all dogs are dangerous in this neighborhood. And I've made this generalization on this one thing. With that, I love what my friend that I talked about at the very beginning is, I love what he talked about is saying, I'm going to do everything I can to try to bridge that gap between I'm resisting or I'm fearful of technology to how can I use it to help me improve my life? I mean, here's the biggest thing. What's the narrative going around in the world right now when we're talking about AI automation? Everybody's going to lose their job. Hey, I'm not saying that's not going to happen, but what I'm saying right now is the data doesn't prove that out. And I would challenge you not to read the headlines, but to go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics and say, hey, what are the numbers? How many people are being fired and hired? What's the unemployment rate? What's the inflation? Look at the data as it is. And I know there are people out there who says, hey, you know what, that's rigged, that's made up. So use a couple of different sources, like ADT, right? They're a big HR or payroll company. They have their thumb, if you will, on a lot of private businesses because they take care of their payroll. And I did a live show Thursday this last week, and they had this prediction of how many new jobs were created in the month of April. Now I'm doing this in May, but in April. And then we looked at what the prediction was by the government before it came out. The next day would have come out, and the numbers were very different. I think ADT came out and they said there were going to be like 111,000 new jobs created in the month of April, while the government, and that didn't include government jobs, and the government's forecast was 55,000, and it did include government jobs. Well, you can go a couple of different routes. What really happened? I challenge you to go look at the Bureau of Labor Statistics and say, what are the facts? What are the facts? And then allow that to make your decisions. And try your damnedest not to be swayed by someone's opinion. Like, okay, I'm looking at another screen. I have two screens here, and I'm looking at another screen, and I use technology every day. A lot every day, like, 6, 8, 10 hours a day. And it allows me to get so much more done than what I could have done. Now, I'll be the first to admit, it means because I can get more done, I work some crazy hours. And it's like there's never a stopping point. So if my thing, and again, don't take this as fact, this is just me saying, hey, a dog barked at me in the neighborhood. It doesn't mean all dogs are bad. It just means in my situation, I find myself saying, I have a hard time saying stop because I can see that I can get so much more done. Like, I use a product called HeyGen, and it's a phenomenal tool that we use for making videos. We create avatars, like a video of me making videos without me having to be in front of the camera. And I can do these at scale, and it'll use my hand gestures. It'll use my voice. It'll use my head, the way I move my gestures, whatever it is. Well, that's cool technology, because what it means to me, because most of my clients are local business owners, A, they probably don't want to be on camera. B, they don't have time to be on camera. And C, they may not be very good at being on camera just because they're not on camera very often. They're not trained to do this. So this particular technology allows me to help them be more consistent, make content, they approve it, we put it out, it helps their business grow. I'll give you a perfect example. One of our clients that, they're a pest control company. Well, I just heard, and we've been working with them for about 14 or 15 months, that I just heard on Tuesday, they shared in a meeting, they said, normally in the last 11, I think it was 11 or 12 years of their local business, it's a family-owned business, that they hire one new person a year, like one new route person. In other words, their business grows enough, they say, I have to hire another person who goes out and does the pest control for this new route. Well, they said in 2025, which we were a part of that, they doubled that. They went to 2. But then they said from January to now, through the end of April, they've hired 9. Well, to me, that's a rah-rah. That's a, hey, that's fantastic, because it helped them grow their business that they'd never done before. They'd had 11 years to do this, and we did this, or they did that in that 4 or 5 months. Quite frankly, it's because of technology. I mean, just let that sink in. It hasn't caused them to lose jobs. It actually caused them to hire more people. And to me, I think, if we go back in history and we look at every evolution, we say, are there some job losses? Yes. Are there some new job creations? Absolutely. Like, who would have thought 3 or 4 years ago there'd be industries that said, hey, are you a prompt engineer? I mean, come on, we wouldn't even know what that meant, a prompt engineer. And there's all kinds of these jobs out here. Now, I mean, think about there's a whole rash of people who are creators that are saying, hey, what do you do for a living? I make videos on YouTube or TikTok or Instagram, and I get paid for it. Those are jobs that didn't exist. Why? technology that sometimes we will demonize because we don't know about it. I mean, here's another thing. Here's technology. And I want to be balanced. I'm not trying to convince you. I just want to share some ideas with you. There's a company, the name escapes me. You can listen to the podcast. It's called Moonshots. And there are people out there now that are able to put, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they are able to help the blind see again. Not by replacing an eye, but by putting specific sensors in an eye to take someone from blind to seeing. That's because of technology. Not just medicine, because medicine advanced faster because of the technology, because of things like AI can now do these tests, 1,000 a night instead of 1,000 a year. And so it advances these kind of things. There are other things, weather, climates. Here's another one. And again, I don't want to rant about this, but I want you to kind of think about this for a second. Data centers. There's this push and a pull. We have to have them because we need to have the computing power to continue to grow. We're in a race, whether you like it or not. We're in this race to have the most capable artificial intelligence. And quite honestly, I think it's going to be one of those things, whichever country, and it literally is the US and China. If you look around, there are really no other countries building frontier models. When I say frontier models like ChatGPT, Anthropic, Grok, XAI, there's nobody else out there making these except China and the US. And there's a race. And part of the race requires, just like if you're a runner, you got to have tennis shoes if you're going to run. They need data centers. Well, there's this demonizing of data centers on a few different fronts. And it's like saying this: data centers use a lot of energy, 100%. They do use energy. But B, they now are either A, creating their own energy with alternative sources, clean energy, and B, they're actually, because they're producing more energy than they use, they're putting energy back on the grid, and it could positively impact those communities that build those data centers in there. So if we just demonize it for it's going to take energy, and we're not, and then all of a sudden we're saying, hey, you know what? It's a blackout at 8 o'clock. Everybody's got to turn their lights off. We can't turn the air conditioner off because a data center out here in this sticks is using all energy. I don't think we're there yet. The other piece is it uses a lot of water. I'll say yes. If you look at the old technology, old data centers, they do use a lot of water. But there is new technology, and a lot of new companies are building this, and they're using what they call closed loop. And it's almost like, you think closed loop, it's like this. Think about your car. If you have a gas-powered car, when's the last time you had to change the water in the radiator, add water to the radiator? You didn't, because you just filled it once and it circulates, keeping the engine cool. Hello, keeping the data center cool with the same fluid. Well, the same thing happens here. So that there are open technologies, there are technologies that still use a lot of water. So I would say, hey, I'm not for old technology to be building in my backyard that's going to use a tremendous amount of water. But I am for the ones who say, we're going to build it with new technology. We're going to produce our own energy. We're going to make more than we need. We're going to get it back to the grid that actually reduces your cost as a homeowner and a resident of that area. And it actually makes it better for you. And then from the water standpoint, I'm going to insist that they use this closed loop system, or one that uses less water. Just recently I kind of got wound up because of this situation. I said, how come we aren't picketing golf courses? And I'm not picking on golf courses. I'm just saying, why aren't we doing that? An average golf course, look it up. How much water they use in the summer here in the Southern California? They could use anywhere from, 500,000 to 1 million gallons of water every day. And it's not recycled. It goes into the ground. It goes up in the air. It ain't coming back. Yes, it will seep down into the groundwater, but it's not like that closed loop system we're talking about. But we don't demonize that. Why? I don't know. It's like we picked on something and that's what we're going to do. So my point of this whole thing is, when you hear something that feels a little uncomfortable, instead of immediately striking out and say, that's wrong, that's bad, I'm going to pick it, I'm going to really force my way and say, don't do this, I'm going to vote no. Say, wait a second, let me find out more of the facts. Let me unspin the message, because I don't need someone else to tell me what I need to know. Let me look at the facts and then make a decision. That's what I'd love to do. That's what I'd love to hear you do. So, hey, it's Saturday afternoon. I just want to jump on here and share this message. I hope some of this resonates with you. Again, I'm not anti anything. I want that freedom of speech. I want to have conversations back and forth, not screaming matches, but conversations. Because if I'm wrong, like if I said, hey, these are open loop coming into the area we live, and they're going to have, small nuclear reactors that I think they're called SMRs that will generate its own power, or we're going to have solar and they have batteries, and it turns out they're not going to do that, I'm going to be right there with you saying, not in my backyard. I want it to be safe, right? It's like coal plants. If it's efficient, I'm not against coal. If it's wasteful and it's black smoke in the sky and it's dangerous to our health, I'm against it. But I don't want to stop technology from growing, and I don't want us to lose this race. I'd love to hear your comments and your thoughts. And again, don't hate me. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm just sharing some thoughts. I hope this opens up the conversation that we can just have two-way. And there's no need to put hate information in here. It's just like, share some data. And do me a favor. If you'll do this, don't just leave your opinion. Cite the source. Where did you hear this from? Was it factual? Because, hey, we live in that world nowadays that everything you can say, well, if I read this in XYZ, let me fact check that. Oh, that was a slanted piece. There was no, okay. Well, that alone might get you to think, wow, wait a minute. What else has been slanting my thought process? What else has been loading my lips? And I'm charging in there like a bull in a china closet, and me included. And you know what? It isn't the truth. It's just a headline that got me fired up. All right. I hope you have a great weekend, and I look forward to hearing what you have to say.